Growing up Viking was nothing like the stories you hear in school. There were no soft pillows or gentle lullabies, only biting wind, the smell of smoked meat, and the constant hum of danger. From the moment you could walk, you were expected to work. You learned to hold a blade before you could tie your shoes. You learned that pain wasn't something to run from. It was something to master. The fire in the longhouse barely kept the frost at bay. The sea, always in the distance, reminded you every day that life was a fight, for warmth, for food, for respect. You didn't have the luxury of fear. You had gods to honor, stories to live up to, and a name to carve in stone. This isn't just history. It's the lived experience of a people forged by ice and iron. In this video, we'll walk through the day-to-day life of a Viking child, the cold dawns, the brutal lessons, the quiet pride of belonging to a lineage of warriors. If that sounds like something you'd survive, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's begin. It begins in the dark, not complete blackness, but that bruised pre-dawn hue that presses against the walls of the longhouse, reminding you the sun still hesitates. You lie there on a bed of straw, brittle and uneven beneath your limbs, scratching faintly against your skin as you shift. The wolf fur wraps you tightly, heavier than it looks, warmer than it should be after all these years. Its edges are frayed, its scent musky and familiar. You inherited it when your older brother left to sail with Uncle Sigurd, and now it's yours, though you sometimes think the wolf spirit inside, it still belongs to him. The fire is out. No embers glow in the center pit, only gray ash and cold stones. You smell it, the absence of warmth, and feel it bite at your feet where the fur doesn't reach. The frost stings, creeping in from the cracks in the timber walls. Your toes curl. You draw the fur tighter and bury your face into the coarse pelts, trying to hold the last trace of heat. Your father snores. Loud, unfiltered, like a bear half asleep. His sound fills the longhouse with rhythm. He's faced storms and feuds, sailed across ice and fire, but in sleep, he's a creature of habit. You've come to know his snore the way others know the tide. It's predictable, steady. When it stops, you wake, not from alarm, but because silence from him means something's wrong. Around you, the longhouse settles. Creaks echo from the roof beams overhead, timber swollen and warped by wind and time. The roof above is layered with overlapping planks and packed moss, and you imagine the ice melting between the cracks, dripping slowly onto the stone floor as the day warms, if it warms. The wind howls just beyond the walls, slipping through seams, brushing against the carved shields hung along the entrance. You hear the moan of the outer gate swinging gently, not with force, but with familiarity. The weather here knows the shape of things. You've always thought of the wind as a cousin who visits each morning, uninvited but expected. Your younger sister stirs in the blanket pile beside you. She murmurs a word, something between sleep and waking, then quiets again. The blanket isn't enough for her, but she doesn't complain. She never does. You consider waking her to help with the fire, but decide against it. She's smaller. She needs the warmth. You'll do it alone. You rise slowly, careful not to wake the household. Your knees crack as you stretch, the stiffness of sleep melting reluctantly. Bare feet meet cold straw, cold dirt. You move toward the hearth, not a dramatic stone centerpiece, just a ring of rocks where ash lives now. You reach for the tinder box, fingers fumbling. The flint is rough, worn down from weeks of use. The steel spark dances once, twice, fails. You whisper to it. You curse it. You try again. The spark catches. A thin wisp of smoke rises. You feed it carefully. Bark, dried moss, carved shavings from the log pile. The flame sputters, flickers, survives. Slowly, the longhouse begins to glow, just barely, with orange light licking the fur-lined walls. Your mother, still curled near the far wall, doesn't stir. She sleeps with one hand on her knife. Habit, not threat. In this world, you sleep prepared. You sit beside the fire and feel its warmth crawl up your ankles. The fur falls loosely from your shoulders, the air inside the house transforming now. Shadows stretch. The carved poles that support the beams start to show their shapes again. Spirals, beasts, runes etched by ancestors. They watch you as you eat your morning ration. A bit of dried fish from a leather pouch, tough and salt-bitten. You chew slowly. You don't rush meals here. There's no abundance to waste. Your brother's axe hangs on the wall near the door, beneath the shield with the blue serpent curling across it. You stare at it every morning. The axe is nicked now, blade dulled from training, but you still remember the first day he held it, knuckles white, eyes wild. He was 14 then. You're nearly that age now. Soon it will be your turn. You wonder how it will feel, the weight of it in your hands, the expectations that come with steel. The sun finally breaches the sky, thin and pale, peeking through slats in the roof where the wood has split. The light doesn't flood, it trickles. You welcome it like water in drought. Birds call faintly outside, a rasping whistle. Ravens, probably. The wolves are quieter now. You haven't heard their cries since the last snowfall. Still, you know they watch. Outside, the world crunches beneath boots, fresh snow packed by night, settled over frozen mud. You step out and the cold slaps your cheeks, sharp and honest. The longhouse behind you groans as your father finally rises, voice a grunt, body stretching. You don't turn. You've begun greeting the day in your own way. Across the yard, smoke lifts from the smith's hut. Bjornson must be stoking the coals. He's probably already shaping iron, hammer ringing out a rhythm that the village understands better than any drum. His daughter waves as she crosses toward the goats, hair braided with beads. You nod. You think she's stronger than most boys, but no one says it aloud. The chores begin soon. You'll haul water from the frozen stream, split wood with the wedge near the stables, sweep ash from the hall. And if you're lucky, you'll train with Toke, the retired raider who teaches shield stances on the field behind the storehouse. His hands are scarred, his nose broken thrice, but his stories hold the power to silence even the rowdiest feast. But right now, before frost becomes routine, before hard lessons and blood oaths, this moment remains. You standing in wolf fur, breath curling into the sky, longhouse behind you, sky above you. You, awake. You, waiting. You were born into this cold. You did not choose it, but it shapes you nonetheless. The call comes softly, not shouted, not stern. It's your mother's voice, carried through the hush of morning. Get water, she says, just that, and you know what it means. You rise from the fire's edge, reluctant to leave its touch. The warmth clings to your ankles like a final plea. But orders are to be followed, and in this world, the simplest tasks carry weight beyond words. Water is life. It cleans, cooks, soothes, and it must be gathered every morning before the chores pile too high. You fetch the pail, a wooden bucket bound with iron, its handle worn smooth from use. The bottom curves awkwardly, and you've learned to adjust for its lopsided weight. It's nearly as heavy as you, even before it's full. You swing it once in your hand, testing your grip, and then step into the snow. The sky is still unsure of day, just a bruised purple horizon, smudged like fingers pressed against a frost-covered window. The snow crunches sharply beneath your boots, each step packing the ice deeper. You follow the path carved by routine, the narrow trench that leads down toward the stream, dug by repetition, softened by footsteps. The cold grips your throat with each breath. You feel it inside your chest, where even air seems to shiver. The world is quiet in the early light. You see the smoke from the smith's hut again, farther now, thinner. A few ravens perch atop the barn roof, watching like judges. They tilt their heads as you pass. You don't look at them directly. Ravens have stories attached to their gaze. You've heard too many around the hearth. Each step toward the stream drags your limbs. The pail bumps against your knee, once, then again. It's early enough that no one jokes about your small size or your struggle. This isn't a moment for laughter. It's a test, the kind that isn't announced, but is remembered. The elders say strength isn't born. It's earned at dawn in tasks no one praises. The stream appears, quiet, narrow, half covered in ice. A fallen log bridges one part, crooked and slick with frost. You don't cross it. You kneel near the shallow edge, where the ice has cracked from earlier use. The water glimmers underneath, black and fast. You listen to its song, low and bitter, like it resents the cold pressing on its surface. Your fingers sting as you lower the pail. You brace the rim against the ice, careful not to let it drift. One slip, and you'd be forced to chase it downstream, maybe even explain yourself to the clan. That's worse than the cold. You hold your breath. The water splashes in, sharp and eager. It rises slowly, climbing the pail's inner walls, then settles. The weight returns instantly, more defiant now. You grit your teeth and lift. The trek back begins with silence. You steady the pail with both hands, arms locked in effort. Snow clings to your boots. The ground tilts slightly uphill, and each step feels like dragging stone. The pail sways, not wildly, but enough to remind you how easily a mistake can empty it. You keep your eyes forward, narrowing your thoughts to each breath, each movement. The wind teases you, curling through your braids, pulling at your sleeves. You tuck your chin low, bury your face behind your scarf, and push onward. There are no songs for this moment, no applause. Just you, the snow, and the silent judgment of the day. When you return to the longhouse, the door swings with effort. Your mother waits near the hearth, elbows deep in flour and ash. She doesn't turn. She doesn't speak. You set the pail down beside her. It sloshes once, barely. You didn't spill much. Her head nods, just slightly. And that is reward enough. Later, you sit on the log bench near the fire again, arms aching. Your sister giggles as she pinches dough into rounds. You watch her fingers, fast, nimble. She always finishes before you. She jokes that maybe you are meant for axe work, not cooking. You smile, but your mind lingers on the stream. Outside, the sun climbs higher now, pale but firm. The snow begins to melt at the edges, forming beads on the wooden posts. A rooster crows near the barn. The sheep bleat softly in their pen, impatient. Children chase each other between houses, calling out dares and promises of contests later. But your morning remains carved in your muscles. You feel it with each move. You earned this day. At midday, the old man Toke gestures toward you with his cracked spear. You have strong hands now, he says. The water gives them purpose. You nod. You believe him. By nightfall, the frost returns. You tuck yourself into wolf fur again, bones sore, eyes heavy. The pail rests empty in the corner. Tomorrow it will be full again. And so will you. The fire spits softly in the center of the longhouse, its rhythm broken only by the occasional crackle of sap in the wood. The smoke curls upward, slow and thin, before slipping through the roof vent into the dim morning sky. You sit close, palms hovering over the warmth, but you don't to press in too much. Your mother says rushing the flame weakens its spirit. Your legs still ache from the water task, and the cold stubbornly clings to your spine. Frost hasn't yet left the edges of your boots. The wolf fur you slept in now hangs near the entrance, draped over a wooden post to dry. Your breath curls with each exhale, fogging faintly in the air. You lean back slightly, feeling the stiffness in your shoulders, where the pail had carved its lesson. Your sister sets a flat board near the hearth, fingers dusted with flour, eyes still heavy from sleep. Upon the board, she places the morning food, nothing elaborate, nothing new. Just the same offerings that make up most dawns. Coarse bread hardened at the edges and cut into uneven chunks. Salted fish, stripped from the bones and dried into tough slivers. A small wooden bowl with a smear of goat fat. There's no fruit, no sweetness, no choice. You eat what's given, what's available, what hasn't spoiled. The bread smells faintly of smoke and ash. Baked yesterday, probably, maybe even the day before. It's dry enough to scratch at the roof of your mouth, but you tear a piece and chew slowly. Across from you, your father sits with his shoulders hunched, hair still tangled from sleep. He says nothing. None of you do. This isn't a meal for chatter or comfort. It's function, and function demands quiet. Your brother used to hum under his breath during breakfast. A habit, a defiance. Your mother cuffed him once, not with anger, but with finality. "We eat in silence," she said. "The food deserves respect. It's older than your voice." He never hummed again. A bowl passes between hands, shared without instruction. Your sister dips bread into the fat, barely coating the surface before chewing. She doesn't look at you. No one makes eye contact here. Eating is ritual, and rituals aren't meant to be disturbed. The salted fish is tough, nearly jerky, pulled from a skin pouch your father retrieved from the storage pit yesterday. He chews it slowly, his jaw working like stone. You copy him, trying to match his rhythm. It's how you learn, not through instruction, but imitation. Every movement at this table is a kind of silent lesson. You once tried asking if there was more food somewhere. Your mother didn't reply. Instead, your father stood up, walked past you, and pointed to the smokehouse. "There's meat in there," he said, "but it's not for mornings. We keep morning lean." That was the end of it. A dog pads near the edge of the hearth, ribs visible, eyes low. Your sister tosses it a crust. It catches mid-air and then slinks back into shadow. Your father raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. The act will be remembered, judged later perhaps, but not addressed now. Morning judgment is reserved for bigger things. Spilled water, forgotten tools, left open gates. You watch your mother slice a fresh sliver of fish with her bone knife. Her hands are steady, practiced. She always eats last, not out of hierarchy, but necessity. She's served others since before your birth, and she's served them long after you're gone. You once saw her eat standing, holding a child in one arm and stirring porridge with the other. She didn't flinch when the bowl spilled onto her apron. She kept cooking. No one speaks about hunger here. It's assumed, woven into daily life like the scent of firewood. You remember last winter, when snow blocked the roads and the men returned with nothing from the forest. Meals were smaller. Your sister cried once, but only after everyone had slept. She cried into her blanket, face pressed so hard into the wool that her sobs barely reached the air. You heard them, though, and you kept quiet. A knock at the outer gate breaks the silence briefly. Your father grunts and stands, footsteps heavy on the wooden planks. He lifts the latch and speaks a word or two, short, clipped. You don't know what's said? He returns carrying a bundle, rabbit pelts maybe. You pretend not to look, but your eyes linger. He sets them near the wall and sits down again, lifting a piece of bread like nothing happened. You dip your own bread into the fat this time, trying to conserve what's left. You've learned to make small gestures last, a longer chew, a smaller bite, a pause between mouthfuls. The bread cracks inside your cheek, salt pressing against your tongue. It's not pleasure. It's endurance. Your sister coughs once, and everyone glances up, brief and wordless. She waves a hand as if to dismiss it, then eats again. A moment passes. The dog circles back, and your father tosses it a bone this time. a rare kindness. When the food is finished, the bowls are stacked and carried to the washing station near the stream. Not by demand, but by habit. Everyone moves. No one waits for instruction. This is how mornings end. Quiet, deliberate, purposeful. You step out briefly to breathe. The air is sharper now, touched by rising sun. Smoke from nearby chimneys spirals into the sky like messages. A neighbor pulls hay from a barn, eyes you, nods once. You nod back. Words aren't needed here. Not yet, not for this. Later, he'll speak during training. He'll shout during chores. You'll laugh, maybe, if the elders allow it. But breakfast is bread, salted fish, and silence. And silence matters. The carved stick is rough in your palm, split at one end where your sister's goat chewed it last summer. It doesn't gleam like iron, doesn't carry the heft of your father's war axe. But when he places it in your hand, you feel a shift. It stops being a toy. It becomes a promise. He doesn't speak much as he shows you the grip. His hands are thick from rope and salt, knotted like driftwood, and he closes your fingers over the shaft with quiet force. Not gently, he says, with purpose. His voice is gravel, shaped by years at sea and winters beneath bloodied skies. You nod, even though your knuckles ache. Outside the longhouse, the morning is pale. The frost has lifted just enough for dirt to soften. And your training circle is nothing more than a patch of cleared earth ringed by stone. A few crows perch in the oak nearby, watching as your father steps back, feet apart, hands at his sides. He doesn't carry a weapon today. He doesn't need one. Your stick shakes slightly in your grip. The balance is wrong, the weight uneven. You fumble with it as you take your stance. It is the stance your older brother used when he sparred with Toke. Feet planted like roots, spine straight as a mast, knees ready to bend. You remember watching him, eyes wide, stomach tight. Now it's your turn, and the stick feels foreign in your hand. You breathe slowly. The first swing is awkward. Your father doesn't flinch. He watches, arms crossed, the scar beneath his eye twitching faintly. Again, he says. You lift the stick and swing again. Firmer this time, your shoulders leading instead of your wrists. It cuts air without precision, whistling wide past where an enemy's shoulder might have been. Your feet shift, unsteady. You stumble slightly. He grunts. Your sister watches from the porch, eyes half amused, half worried. She knows how long these lessons last. She remembers last week's bruises. Your father steps closer, reaches out, adjusts your grip again. Loose fingers break, he says. Hold it like it matters. You tighten your grasp. The stick warms in your hand, no longer part of the forest, but part of you. He moves beside you, crouches, and draws a line in the dirt with his fingertip, long and straight. This is your strike path, he says. Every swing follows it. No guessing, no wildness. You nod. You swing again. This time, the stick hits the path with better aim. Not perfect, but closer. He doesn't smile. Vikings don't teach with smiles. He simply moves back and says, keep going. You train until your arms shake, until the stick splits, until you see your breath in bursts of effort. The sun climbs overhead, indifferent to your struggle. Crows shift on the branch, squawking now, as if mocking you. Your hands blister, tiny red dots blooming at your palms, the skin pulled raw with each repetition. Still, you don't stop. Later, he introduces you to the shield post, a wooden column driven deep into the earth, nicked and scarred from decades of practice. It stands like an elder, tall and unyielding. That, your father says, is the shape of your enemy. Aim low, aim high, but aim true. You nod again. Your first strike against the post sends a shock up your wrist. The stick bounces back, jarring your shoulder, and you wince. He doesn't offer sympathy. He simply steps behind you, places his hand on your back, and says, "Again." The training continues through the afternoon. Your swings become sharper, your footing steadier. You learn not just how to swing, but when, after a feint, after a dodge, when the wind shifts. He teaches you to move with silence, like snow falling on pine, and to strike with purpose, like thunder split from the sky. Your mother calls for wood. Your father ignores it. "This is part of woodwork," he says. Later, you eat with sore arms and cracked knuckles, the bread harder than ever. Your sister doesn't tease you today. She saw the way you stood after falling. She saw the blood on your palms. That night, you lie beneath your wolf fur and replay each motion in your mind, each step, each swing, each moment of failure. You whisper the instructions into your blanket, over and over. Purpose, grip, strike path. You dream of sticks that turn to blades. You dream of runes that you still don't understand. Reading will come later, but battle waits now. The fire is lower now. Its glow slips across the stone floor, casting longer shadows than before. The smell of ash lingers in your hair, your clothes, deep in the fabric of the wolf fur blanket pressed against your shoulder. The longhouse hums softly around you, not with voices, but with breath. Even the youngest children stay quiet. They know the shape of night here, and what waits inside it. Your father sits cross-legged, elbows resting on his knees, face half lit in flame. His voice hasn't yet begun, but his silence holds weight. A few others gather close, old warriors with faces lined like tree bark, hands chewed by years of oars and blades. Their bodies are stiff, some broken, but their minds remain sharp, dangerous. You've seen one of them strike a boy, twice his speed during training, using nothing but timing. They don't tell stories to pass time. They tell stories so you live. Tonight, Ulf takes the place by the fire. His beard is silver, braided in thin cords that fall to his chest. His breath rattles slightly when he speaks, but his eyes stay bright, cutting through the flicker of flame like blades. His voice begins low, not dramatic, not sudden, just steady. "This is the tale of Loki," he says, "and why you must never trust a smile too wide." You lean forward. He tells of the trickster god, the shapeshifter, the deceiver. Loki, who walked among gods as one of them, but never quite belonged. The tale twists through mischief and betrayal, through the forging of Thor's hammer and the loss of Baldur. Each moment is threaded with warning. Ulf doesn't embellish. His words are clean, like stone shaped for purpose. Loki once saved the gods from disaster, he says, and later led the world into ruin. Remember that. Even all eyes can turn. No one laughs. The children's eyes remain wide, their lips shut tight. Your sister squeezes your hand. You grip back. Ulf pauses. His eyes scan the room. "You will face your own locusts," he says. "On boats, in battle, in feasts, they will smile and promise silver. You must listen for the lie beneath the gift." Your father nods once. Ulf continues. He moves into another tale, this one of Odin, the Allfather, king of gods and seeker of wisdom. A man who traded his eye for knowledge, hung himself from the tree for 9 days to learn the runes. You've heard parts of it before, whispered during chores, etched into the minds of those who train with spears. But this version cuts deeper. Odin tested his own kin, Ulf says. He disguised himself, walked the land like a beggar, knocked on doors, asked for food. One child gasps, another shushes her. If the host turned him away, Ulf says, voice dropping, they found their barns burned, their kin cursed. The gods see who you are when no one else does. You glance at the wooden carving above the door, the one with a single eye, always watching. Your mother once said it keeps truth in the house and lies outside. Ulf's voice thickens. Odin rewards those who honor without pride, he says, and punishes those who boast before earning. The old warriors stir slightly. One shifts the hilt of his blade. Another pulls his cloak tighter. Ulf moves to the final tale, the most feared. Ragnarok, the end of things. Not a bedtime fable, but a prophecy. A certainty. You've heard whispers of it. Wolves devouring the sun. Giants rising. Gods falling. No survivors, only renewal. Ragnarok isn't a myth, Ulf says. It's a memory waiting to repeat. You hold your breath. It's not fire that kills us, he says. It's forgetting. Forgetting the cost of peace, the weight of loyalty, the price of cowardice. Your father lifts his chin. His gaze finds yours. You understand now why stories matter. Not because they entertain, because they remind. Ulf stands slowly. He places a carved stone on the ground near the fire, etched with runes you don't yet read. This, he says, is the name of a boy who didn't listen. May we remember him better than he remembered us. No one asks for more. The fire dims further. You wrap the wolf fur closer, your heart drumming with new thoughts, not of play, but of warning. The gods don't live in clouds. They live in choices. Yours. Every day. You won't forget. You hear it before you see it. The slow rhythmic crashing against the fjord rocks, steady like breath, ancient like gods. The wind carries its voice inland, threading through pines and over snowbanks, curling around the thatch rooftops like a secret meant only for dreamers. You're near the edge of the village now, boots heavy with frost, walking the same path your brother took when he left last spring. The sea calls you in a way the woods never could. It promises freedom, distance, legend, but the sea also takes. You stand at the ridge overlooking the harbor, where longships sleep tethered to the dock posts like wolves leashed before the hunt. Their sails are furled tight. Their hulls, carved with dragons and deer, reflect the last kiss of afternoon light. Men move slowly along the boats, checking ropes, sanding oars, muttering about weather signs. They don't speak loud. Loud voices don't belong to the sea. You learned that early. Your father is among them, bent over a hull, knife in hand, trimming bark from a patch of warped wood. He doesn't see you, or he chooses not to. Either way, the quiet stands between you, filled only by the waves. You remember when he first told you about the water, not like a story, but like a warning. The sea gives riches, he said, but not freely. It gives only what it already plans to take. You were young, tracing runes with your finger on the doorframe. You asked what he meant. He didn't answer, just walked out, voice lost in the tide. Now you watch the harbor, eyes narrowing against the salt wind. A gull cries overhead, looping madly through the sky like a message trying to find its way home. Below, an old man oils the joints of a rudder, his beard braided with yellowed bone. You've heard he once sailed to Ireland, returned with 3 scars and no sons. You don't ask. You don't have to. Your sister joins you, chewing dried apple, face turned toward the horizon. She doesn't speak. She knows what you're thinking. Everyone in the village knows what boys think when they stare at the sea for too long. It's the same thought every generation. The tug, the thirst, the hunger to go. She tosses the apple core into the snow and says nothing. You walk toward the docks, passing a stack of nets, frozen stiff. A young man, barely older than you, is hammering copper nails into a plank. His hands bleed slightly with each strike. He smiles, though. The kind of smile you've learned to distrust. Too eager, too sure. You nod. He nods back. You both know that not all sails return. You remember Rick. She was 12 when her father set sail for the eastern coast. Promised silks, promised stories. He kissed her forehead, whispered something in her ear, and left with the tide. His boat was seen near Gotland. Then never again. Rick doesn't speak much anymore. Her braid is always too tight. Her boots never clean. You pass her sometimes near the smokehouse, eyes vacant. And still, you want to go. It's not just the stories, though they help. Toke, the old raider, tells them when the fire runs low and mead loosens tongues. He speaks of sea wolves, warriors painted in ash, landing with axes raised and songs loud enough to shake the sky. He tells of coastal temples filled with gold, of markets where swords are traded like bread. He never finishes his tales without leaning forward, eyes sharp and saying, "But most of those men were never seen again." Your brother was 13 when he began training for sea voyage. His swings were tighter than yours, his feet more balanced. He didn't hesitate, not once. You watched him grip the prow of Uncle Sigurd's ship like it belonged to him. He left without turning back. You still wait for his return. At night, you dream of water, not smooth, not welcoming. It's cold and violent, pulsing like a heartbeat. Your boat rocks against waves the size of longhouses. Your hands blister against oars. Salt stings your eyes until you can't tell sky from sea. But you don't wake scared. You wake yearning. You ask your father once, softly near the woodpile, "When do I sail?" He doesn't look at you. When the sea chooses you, he says, you don't know what it means. But you carry it. Some mornings, the tide surges higher. It pulls bits of driftwood into the bay and leaves them tangled near the nets. Your task is to gather them, strip bark, split for kindling. Your fingers numb with cold, palms splintered, feet soaked with brine. But still, you watch the horizon, hoping for sails, dreading them. Uncle Sigurd returns one evening. You hear his horn before you see him. The long blast echoes through the fjord like a god's breath. Men rush to the docks. Children shout names. You stand on the ridge, eyes locked on the dragon-head prow cutting through foam. The sails are blue this time, trimmed in bronze. Your brother is not aboard. Sigurd steps onto the dock, face older, boots soaked. He speaks quickly, gestures wide, tosses a sack of copper coins to your father. Your father catches it, nods once, and walks away. You ask later, "Did he speak of my brother?" Your father doesn't answer. The sea is quiet that night. No waves, no wind. It feels like morning. You sit near the fire, carving lines into a piece of driftwood, trying to shape the prow of a ship. You fail, the curves splinter. You toss the wood aside and stare into the flames. Your sister braids her hair in silence. Your mother stirs soup, jaw set tight. The dog sleeps near the door. You hear the sea still. Always. It promises you things no land ever could. Glory, gold, legend. But it also reminds you, every time you listen close enough, it took your brother. And one day, it may take you. The thrall moves quietly through the longhouse, bent beneath the weight of a bucket filled with waste from the latrine trench. His boots squish with each step, soaked not with water, but the remnants of everything cast away. The stench trails behind him, soft and sour, but no one flinches. The smell is part of him now. You watch from the far bench, chewing the last corner of your breakfast bread, trying not to stare. But you do. You always do. His name is Corey, though you've never called him that aloud. Names carry power, and in this house, his name floats beneath conversation. Your sister once asked if he had a family. Your mother snapped her fingers and told her to fetch more flour. That was the end of it. Corey cleans the pit, carries the filth down past the tree line, and dumps it into the trench behind the goat pen. He doesn't speak, doesn't hum, doesn't cry, at least not while anyone watches. You've seen him dig fire pits with his bare hands, his fingers black from frost and old blisters. Your father pays him no mind. Unless something is done wrong, unless something spills, breaks, or arrives late, then your father raises his hand. You saw at once, the slap. Sharp, fast, not even angry. Just functional. Corey had forgotten the salted fish during morning meal, left it near the barn instead of inside. Your father walked toward him, didn't slow, and struck him flat across the cheek. Corey didn't fall, didn't flinch, just turned back toward the barn. You remember the sound more than the strike. It echoed along the planks like a reminder. You felt sick, but you said nothing. Later, you found Corey near the woodpile, skin red, eyes lowered, stacking fire logs without a word. You wanted to ask what it felt like. You wanted to ask what he had done to become thrall. But you didn't. You don't speak to thralls. Not unless necessary. The old rules hold strong here. You've heard bits from your father. He lost a bet, or he stole from the wrong hut, or sometimes just bad blood. Each answer colder than the last. Your mother doesn't explain. She washes the cooking stones each night, and Corey stirs the soup she makes before anyone tastes it. He works with quiet urgency, like someone trying to pay a debt that never shrinks. Some mornings, you watch him from the edge of the porch. He wakes before everyone, sharp, precise, gathering the kindling, clearing frost from the doorway, chasing rats from the grain room. He does all of it without complaint. You wonder if it's fear or duty or something else. Once, when you fetched water near the stream, you saw Corey bathing alone, shirt off, knuckles scabbed, ribs showing like carved bones. A thin scar curled over his back, red and raised, old but not forgotten. He noticed you, met your eyes, and you looked away. He didn't. That night, you asked your father, softly, what makes someone lose their freedom? Your father didn't look up from carving his fishhook. Losing a fight, he said. Then, after a moment, or sometimes just losing, you didn't understand. Still don't. But the words settled heavy in your chest. You've seen children tease the thralls, call them names, toss bits of bread at their feet. You don't. Your sister doesn't. She says they were once like us. Your brother, before he left, called one ashback during a feast. Your mother cuffed him hard. Their backs break for you, she said. Don't disgrace your own meals. Corey isn't the only one. There's Elna, the older woman with missing teeth, who sweeps the longhouse floor each morning before the sun rises. She hums sometimes, a melody that feels more prayer than song. No one joins her. No one tells her to stop. She once stitched your cloak when it ripped during training. Didn't ask. Just did it. You wore it 3 more winters. Then there's Sven, the boy no older than you, who tends the smokehouse. His eyes dart, shoulders twitch, as though expecting a slap any moment. He rarely speaks, but when he does, his voice shakes less than yours. You watched him once, sitting by the fire after everyone slept, carving shapes into the dirt, spirals, beasts, runes. You asked what they meant. He said, I don't know yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. You nodded. He smiled. Then stood and left. You feel strange about thralls. Not quite hate. Not quite mercy. You fear them because they are close to the edge. You pity them because you sense the edge isn't far from where you stand. Your training teaches you to be strong, to grip blades, to show no softness. But you wonder, in the dark, in the quiet, what strength looks like when someone has nothing. You ask your sister, once, while chopping onions, do thralls pray? She shrugs. Maybe, to the old gods. Or to the ones we forgot. You imagine a god that listens only to thralls. What kind of god would that be? At feast days, thralls serve the tables. They pour mead, carry stew, wash bowls. They stand against the wall after eating scraps, never joining the songs or dances. You pretend not to watch them. But you always do. Uncle Sigurd once said, thralls are born from mistakes. Then he drank, and told a tale about a man who lost his name at sea, sold himself to survive, then vanished in the western forests. You don't know if it's true, but it sounds like it could be. Some nights, Corey sits by the outer fire pit alone, sharpening knives he doesn't own. He doesn't speak to the flames, doesn't dream aloud, just works. You think sometimes he's remembering who he was, carving himself back into shape. You dream of freedom, on ships, in raids, in stories. But you dream also of losing it, and that changes you. You still fear the thrall, but now you understand just enough to wonder. They don't call it feud aloud, not in daylight, not where ears might listen. It's in the way your uncle shifts his weight as he enters the longhouse, in the way your father's hand pauses midway through sharpening his blade, resting heavy on the hilt. You see it in glances passed between warriors, brief but sharpened, and in names spoken like curses. Short, spit-like, bitter as spoiled mead. You sit near the hearth, whittling wood into the rough shape of a horse, pretending not to hear. But the tone of their voices thickens the air. Your uncle's breath is fast, clipped. His fingers twitch as he gestures. Erickson, he says once, and your father growls without words. That name holds weight, history. You don't know what happened, not precisely, but you know enough to understand. Someone owes, and someone hasn't paid. Your sister peeks from the blanket pile, listening with wide eyes. Your mother scrubs the pot louder than usual, as though sound could drown tension. No one speaks to you directly, but you hear pieces. He broke oath. Their boy took the blade first. They dishonored the hall. The phrases are fragments, like stones scattered in dark water. You try to fit them together, but each time the picture grows darker. The words come only at night. Not during feasts, not during chores, not in the light of Odin's sun. Feuds are creatures of dusk, thin, silent, laced with violence. You once asked your father about revenge. He said, "It's a debt carved in bone. It waits for the right time." That was all. You didn't push. You've heard that blood feuds begin with insult, but they end with fire. A stolen goat. A mistaken cut during training. A merchant shorting a pouch of silver. A wife taken without proper rights. Every village holds grudges behind locked doors. Every family has names they don't say in front of children. Your uncle tells a story, not with drama, but with bitterness. They sent a boy to our fence last week, he says, barehanded, all apology. Thought we'd forgive it. Thought kindness unravels history. Your father snorts. They forget what their father did to mine. Your stomach tightens. You remember the goat pens 2 winters ago. Someone poisoned the feed. No one spoke the culprit aloud, but everyone glanced toward the blacksmith's house. Later that week, their youngest slipped on ice and shattered a rib. People said it was luck. You saw Toke smile too long. The longhouse becomes quieter after your uncle's visit. Your father sleeps with his axe closer now. Your mother sharpens knives she doesn't usually touch. The dog growls at shadows more often, and even the chickens seem to peck more nervously. You feel danger, not in moments, but in atmosphere, like cold creeping through walls, unspoken but certain. You train harder. You swing longer. You sleep lighter. One morning, a boy named Gunnar visits from a nearby village. He walks close to your fence, calls out pleasantries, brings a gift, dried fish wrapped in birch bark. Your father meets him halfway. Gunnar smiles. Your father doesn't. They speak briefly. Gunnar leaves. That night, your father burns the fish in the fire pit. The smell is bitter and thick. You ask your sister what that meant. She says nothing, just watches the flame like it might speak. Your thoughts are heavy. You wonder about loyalty, about where it begins, at bloodline or at friendship. You consider names you've only heard in passing. Erickson, Thorgild, Haldiskin. You don't know the whole map of alliances. only its blurred corners. You watch how men choose seats at feast, how they pass bowls, who drinks from whose cup. It's a language older than runes. You ask Toke about feuds once, carefully, while oiling his boots. He leans close. Feuds last longer than memory, he says. You'll fight a man and not know why. But your grandfather knew, and his blade remembers. You sit back, quieter than before. The fields feel smaller now. You keep your distance from fences, from roads that lead toward houses no one mentions. You hold your tongue when certain topics arise. And yet, despite all caution, you feel it stirring. Feud as a storm no charm can calm. Your uncle returns twice more, each visit shorter, more urgent. Names are spoken faster. Your mother prepares travel cloaks. Your father counts blades. You notice 3 extra arrows stacked beside the door. You say nothing. You learn silence is often safer. You wonder if your brother knew before he sailed. You wonder if you'll be asked to choose soon. You wake earlier than usual, not from cold, not from hunger, but from the sour scent that rolls through the longhouse in waves thick, greasy, clinging to the wood, the fur, the cloth. A mix of blood and rot, tallow and weather. It's hide season, and the air is different. You know before anyone says a word. The smell tells the story. Your mother confirms it with a glance, holding out the bone-handled awl without explanation. You nod, eyes gritty from sleep, and pull on your thickest boots. The wind howls outside, but inside the longhouse, it's calm expectant. Stretching hides isn't like hauling water or sweeping ash. It's slower, heavier. It stains your fingers and clogs your nose. But when the snows come, fur is the difference between sleep and death. Out by the curing racks, the hides hang in stiff rows, deer, elk, wolf, goat collected over weeks, some freshly flayed, others half-dried. They've been scraped of flesh and fat, but not yet softened. That's your task. You run your fingers over one, and they come away slick with oil and old blood. You wipe them on your tunic and get to work. Your uncle is already there, sharpening his bone blade on a flat stone, hands firm, jaw tense. He doesn't speak much during hide work. No one does. The smell is enough to silence laughter. You join him on the rack nearest the tree line. A young elk hide stretched between 4 wooden posts lashed with sinew. The tension's uneven, and the fur has clumped in wet patches. He nods, and you begin slicing away the hardened edges. The blade resists the first few passes. You angle it, press deeper, and feel it slip not smoothly, but with a jerk that strains your wrist. The flesh peels reluctantly, revealing slick brown beneath. You've done this before, but it's never easy. The hide seems to fight you, remembering the animal it once wrapped. You work slowly, scraping, pressing, pulling. The sound of knife on flesh wet and rhythmic fills the space. Your fingers begin to ache within minutes. You keep going. Beside you, your sister handles goat hides, arms buried to the elbow in fat scraps. Her braid has come loose and hangs like wet rope against her cheek. She doesn't complain. She's quicker than you, even with smaller hands. You envy her sometimes, not for speed, but for how she makes the work look like part of her. The sun climbs, and the hides dry faster now, steaming faintly in the light. You grab another, this one a wolf, its fur matted, its tail still attached. You carve along the spine, separating muscle memory from survival. You don't let yourself think about the animal, but you remember the howls in the woods, last winter thin, sharp, layered with hunger. You wonder if this pelt belonged to one of them. By midday, your hands sting. The skin splits at the knuckles, bleeding into the cuts of the hide. You wrap them in cloth, but it slips. Your uncle grunts once, tosses you a strip of waxed leather to bind them tight. You nod. Gratitude is shared through action here. The curing racks are silent save for blades and breath. No songs, no chants. The elders say hide work is sacred. The furs keep the gods warm in the dark places. You don't know if that's true, but you treat the task like a rite, focused, respectful, enduring. Your mother calls from the fire pit with a bowl of bone broth. You drink it fast, salty, thin, but hot. It soothes your throat and sharpens your resolve. More hides await. Some must be stretched, others scraped, a few salted and bundled. You don't hesitate. Later, you help your uncle tack a deer hide across a frame. He shows you how to stretch it evenly, no wrinkles, no sag. Every fold keeps the cold, he says. Make it flat or make it worthless. His voice cracks through the air like the blade against sinew. You press harder, fingers numb, wrists locked. The blood stains your tunic. Your boots soak in the mess. The flies buzz. You work anyway. Your dog pads near the edge of the racks, sniffing at a pile of discarded flesh. You wave it off, but it grabs a strip and runs. You laugh briefly, the only sound all afternoon. When the sun dips low, casting long orange shadows across the clearing, you're still working. Your sister sets the last hide on the drying line. You finish tying the final corner. Your hands throb. Your jaw aches from clenching. But the racks are full. Your father inspects them at dusk slowly, silently. He runs his fingers across the furs, testing for tension, for dryness, for flaw. He doesn't speak until he's done. Good work, he says. That's enough. You sleep with your hands wrapped in cloth that night, beneath the wolf fur, beneath the weight of winter's warning. You dream of snow and warmth, of the hides sheltering the longhouse, of the wind trying and failing to break through the walls you helped create. You bleed for the furs, because without them, you break. It happens quickly. Your foot slips on the wet stone near the ridge. You fall. Not hard, not far, but badly. The sharp edge cuts through your tunic, bites through flesh, and carves open the skin just beneath your knee. Not a gash deep enough to cripple, but jagged enough to bleed freely. It spreads down your calf in a thick red line. Hot, immediate. Your breath catches. You clench your jaw. No sound. Your sister is close enough to see. She stops, rushes toward you, eyes wide, mouth half open. You, she starts, but you raise a hand to stop her. She knows better. You sit upright, slowly, knee bent at a stiff angle. The pain arrives in waves, now stabbing, burning, twisting, but still you stay quiet. Your fists curl into the dirt. You bite the inside of your cheek until your eyes blur. You focus on the trees, on the snow, on anything but the ache. Your uncle walks up the hill, sees the blood, sees your face. Doesn't rush, doesn't speak, just nods once. That's all you get. He fetches a strip of hide from his satchel, kneels, wraps the wound. The leather is rough, tugging at the torn skin. You grunt once, not loud, but he hears it. His eyes flick toward yours. Don't whimper, he says. Not for this. You nod. Of course. You wouldn't. You stand, leg trembling beneath you. You walk. Every step stretches the wound, forces fire into your nerves. But no one helps. Not because they're cruel, because they trust you'll endure. By the time you reach the longhouse, your leg is slick again. The hide couldn't hold all the blood. Your mother sees. She fetches the sewing needle, the one made from raven bone. You sit near the hearth, knee bare, cloth soaked in hot broth pressed against it to clean the edges. It stings more than the fall, more than the cut. But you stay silent. She doesn't comfort. She sews. Each pierce of the needle pulls a breath from your lungs. You learn how to control them short, tight, silent. Your sister stirs stew nearby, pretending not to hear. Your father sits in the shadows, watching. You look away. There are no tears. Not here, Not ever. You remember the boy who cried during training last spring, dropped his axe on his own foot, screamed, sobbed. Toke sent him home for the week, not because he was weak, but because his noise had shamed the group. Your father spoke of it only once, shaking his head. Pain is private, he said. No need to share it unless it kills you. Later, your wound is stitched, covered. The bone needle returned to its case. You stand again, slower this time. Limping, yes, but moving. No one congratulates you. No one acknowledges the struggle. You limp into the yard and grab your wooden sword. Your knee throbs. Your fingers shake. You swing anyway. The snow crunches beneath your feet. The wind lifts your braid. You train. At dusk, Toke inspects your gait. You favor the left, he says. Correct it? You nod. Swing again. The sharp edge of pain remains. You use it, focus it into your grip, into your aim, into your timing. Weakness is only useful if it teaches. Inside the longhouse that night, you press hot stones against the wound. Your mother leaves them near the fire, doesn't ask how it feels. You grunt softly as the heat pierces the skin, soothes the torn muscle. Your sister braids her hair beside you, humming under her breath. You don't ask for water. You don't ask for help. You lie down with the ache. You sleep with it. You wake with it. It becomes part of your stride. No one cries here, not for cuts, not for bruises, not for loss. Uncle Sigurd lost 2 fingers during his raid last autumn. Didn't flinch. Wrapped the stump in moss. Fought the rest of the battle with his offhand. You saw the blood spray across his boots. He returned and drank from the same horn as always. Your brother dislocated his shoulder once, dragging a net onto the longship. He didn't speak of it, just twisted it back into place against the mast, face pale but unreadable. You learned more from that grimace than from any lesson. Tears are considered noise. Noise weakens the group. You protect others by protecting your face, by holding your silence when your body screams. One night, your sister whispers under the blankets. Does it still hurt? You pause, think, then say, yes. She nods, doesn't reply. That's enough. Later, you walk past the goat pen. Corey the thrall watches your limp. Says, you're strong. You say, I didn't cry. He grins strangely. That's not the same thing, he says. You don't answer. You carve a rune into the drying rack the next day. Not for pain, not for healing, but for endurance. You don't tell anyone. But you press your thumb against it each morning, reminding yourself that Viking strength isn't just in the blade. It's in silence, in scars, in never needing pity. It starts small, a shove half meant, half testing. You're near the goat pen, splitting kindling with a bone wedge, arms sore, fingers raw. He's beside you. Frey, your friend since your 3rd winter, the one who carried your weight when you broke your ankle, the one who gave you his last smoked eel during last spring's fast. You've slept beside him on frostbitten nights, trained beside him under Toke's orders, bathed in the same stream with soap made from fish fat and ashes. But today the air feels different, tense, tight. The cold hasn't settled, and the sky is bruised with gray. You argue, not about anything important, just words thrown too quickly. Something about the blade you borrowed, or the pelt he ruined, or the chores someone forgot. It's not clear, but the heat builds behind the ribs, then the shove. You feel it ripple through your chest, not deep, but enough. Enough to trigger instinct, to wake the part of you taught to hold ground before holding thought. You shove back. The second push lands heavier. He stumbles slightly. Laughs, not a kind laugh, but one meant to say I'm still bigger than you. That laugh lights the fuse. You swing first, not clean, not skilled, just wild. Your fist grazes his cheek. He gasps, then strikes. The world goes narrow. You feel the sting of knuckle against lip, taste copper. You grip the edge of his tunic, twist, drive your shoulder into his ribs. He falls. The mud soaks both of you instantly, thick and cold, curling against your skin. He writhes, grabs your braid. You roar, not loud, but sharp, and pound your fist against his jaw. Someone shouts from the longhouse. No one comes. This is ritual. Your first fight. It's not training. Not stances or shields or wooden swords under Toke's eye. It's chaos, emotion, muscle. A boy becoming a body, learning where he ends and someone else begins. The mud grips your boots. Your knuckles split on his shoulder. He grunts, twists you off, rolls over, pins your arm. You remember his strength now. You forgot it for a moment. The same strength that once carried buckets with ease. You groan, push, twist your hip, find space, kick him hard in the ribs. He winces. You lunge. Your elbow clips his nose. You feel the crack, the sudden shift. His eyes widen. Blood spills. It joins the mud, makes something ancient. He doesn't scream, just breathes in fast, sharp, and stares at you. Your heart races. His face shifts. Anger, pride, pain, confusion. You sit back. He sits back. The silence floods in. The cold rushes over your skin, pulls the heat from your limbs, fills the quiet. He wipes his face, looks at the red smeared across his fingers. Broken, he says. You nod. I felt it. No one scolds you. No one comforts you. The fight is yours. You own it. You both know the rules. Fighting is less about hatred than hierarchy. Boys clash? Not because they must, but because they can. The longhouse teaches you obedience. The yard teaches you rank. Not the kind carved into walls, the kind felt in bruises. You limp toward the stream together. No more words. You wash the blood from his nose. He splashes water against your swollen eye. You both hiss, then laugh. Not loudly, just enough to remember that you're still friends, still boys, still part of the same story. Back at the longhouse, your father glances at your limp. At Frey's split nostril, he nods once. That's the only acknowledgement you get. Your mother hands you a salve, thick, bitter, made from moss and boar fat. She doesn't ask what happened. She doesn't need to. You sleep with a sore jaw and purple cheek. You wake stronger. The next morning, Frey tosses you the stick for training. You catch it, stand. The fight is past, but the story stays. And the story carries weight. You know where you stand now. So does he. The bone is pale and smooth, stripped clean of tendon, polished by time and hands. It's no longer part of an animal. Now it's a canvas. It rests in your palm with unfamiliar weight, neither heavy nor light, but expectant. The mark you place upon it will live longer than you, if carved deep enough. That's what your mother tells you as she sets down the carving stone, wiping her hands on a fur scrap. It's a shard from the leg of a stag, the one your uncle brought down at the edge of the frozen river last winter. You remember its size, the breath it released before falling, how the antlers dug into the earth, like they were trying to hold on to this world. The meat was smoked and shared. The hide became 3 cloaks, and the bone waited. You settle into the corner of the longhouse, near the warming pit where the embers glow faint and steady. The blade you're given is smaller than the one you use for hides. Fine, sharp, carved from obsidian, set into a birchwood handle wrapped in sinew. Your sister watches, cradling a spool of woven thread. Your mother kneels beside you, steadying your shoulder, then letting go. This part is yours. Your hand hovers above the bone. You already know which rune to carve. It's not the one for strength that comes later. Not the one for victory, or protection, or wrath. Today, you carve Yaruz, the rune of growth, of becoming, of silent power that stirs beneath the skin. Your mother nods when you whisper its name. Appropriate, she says, voice soft. A first rune should begin beneath, not above. You press the edge of the blade into the surface. The first stroke is hesitant, shallow. Your fingers tremble. You adjust your grip, slow your breath, hold your forearm tight against your thigh. You drag the blade again. This time, it bites. The bone flakes slightly, resisting, then yields. A fine curl falls to the floor. The groove glistens in the firelight. You carve deeper. The edges sharpen into angles, sloping lines that bend toward each other like horns meeting mid-charge. You've seen this rune etched into wood beams and painted onto shields, but this is different. This is not decoration. This is identity. Your mother doesn't interrupt, but you feel her gaze. The room quiets. Your dog pads near the hearth and watches. Your sister hums something beneath her breath, low and uneven. The fire spits. A warrior snores near the back wall. Outside, the wind drags across the longhouse roof, testing the seams. You finish the final stroke. Then you lift the bone to the light. The rune stands clear, precise enough to be read, jagged enough to show it's your first. You feel it in your fingers, the way the groove matches the motion you made, how the mark follows your thought. It's no longer just a shape. It's yours. Your mother smiles. Not wide, not proud, just enough. She holds out a pouch made from fox leather. Inside is a mixture of ash and pine resin. You dab a strip of cloth into it and press it over the carved rune, rubbing softly until the groove darkens. It stands out now, strong and visible, easy to see even from a few steps away. You run your thumb over it. The texture catches against your skin. Your mother takes the bone from you, wraps it in linen, and ties it with twine. It goes into the family box, she says. You nod, of course. It belongs with the others. Your brother's first rune, carved into driftwood. Your sister's, etched into clay. Your father's, scorched into iron. Each one preserved, stored, remembered. Tomorrow, you'll carve again, practice, sharpen the blade, learn more runes. But this moment is singular. Ritual. You were a child this morning, pulling nettles from the field, trading jokes over porridge. Now, you carry a symbol tied to your name. Not a warrior yet, not a man, but no longer just a child. Later that night, your father returns from the outer field, snow stuck to his boots, cheek marked by the wind. He doesn't speak. Your mother holds up the wrapped bone. He nods, then looks at you. Nothing more. But everything's changed. You walk outside before sleep, bone dust still beneath your nails. The sky arches overhead, stars burning behind cloud threads. You whisper the name of the rune once more, Uruz, and feel it hum beneath your breath. You're becoming. And the bone remembers. The news of his death arrives not with an announcement, but with a shift in the air, something quieter than sorrow, something heavier than mere routine. The rhythm of the longhouse stutters for a moment as word spreads in silence from matriarch to elder to child, carried like smoke between door frames and woven into the creaking of benches. Bjark is gone. Not many cried, and none wailed. Grief among Vikings didn't always move with sound. You hear it in the way your mother sets down the cooking pot slower than usual, or how your father sharpens the blade of his small axe without humming the tune he usually mumbles. It's not just that someone died. It's that someone was worth remembering. You didn't know Bjark well. Most of your memories are impressions. The sight of his tall frame hunched near the fire, one hand always resting on the hilt of the sword he hadn't used in years. The way his beard caught embers in its ends without him flinching, and the low, gravelly voice that rolled out like boulders being pushed across a mountainside. He was quiet, worn down, edged with stories no one recited aloud. Some say he had fought in 3 lands before you were born. Others say he had killed more men than fingers on a clan leader's hand, each death carved into his longship's mast. You once saw a thrall jump out of his way, not because Bjark threatened, but because his presence demanded it. And now he's dead. In the night, without drama. His body is wrapped in thick furs pulled from the winter chest, each fold hiding scars and stories lost to rot. His hands are crossed over his chest, stiff, still strong-looking, even in death, and his sword lies beside him, dull but steady, as if still guarding the threshold between life and something beyond it. Coins pressed into his eyelids glint under firelight, smeared with ash, waiting to pay the toll to whatever god demanded passage. You stand behind your father, who lifts Bjark's shoulders without straining and helps lay him into the hollow of the longship. The process isn't rushed. Every movement holds weight, each rope knot tied with care as warriors and neighbors press around, their faces carved with quiet respect. The vessel floats on calm water, tethered loosely to the shore, just far enough that when the flames rise, they won't cast shadows on the children, still unsure how to mourn. There is no priest, no chant, no declaration, but there is ritual, as old as memory itself. The longship creaks under the strain of the wood stacked around Bjark's body, dried bundles of kindling and herbs packed tightly, oil soaked into crevices so the fire will catch without resistance. His shield rests atop the pile, cracked from years but still emblazoned with the wolf emblem of his family line. A small pouch of salt is poured across the furs, to keep the spirits clean, or perhaps to remind the sea he belonged to it even in death. Your father lights the torch without ceremony. No dramatic words. No pausing for approval. He steps forward slowly, the flame dipping gently against the wind, and presses it into the base of the longship's stacked firewood. It hesitates, as if even the gods were unsure whether Bjark's time had truly come, then breathes in once and exhales his orange. Smoke begins almost immediately, curling into the late afternoon sky like a language spoken to ravens, and the flames rise with reluctant grace. The air changes. You feel it on your skin, the shift from waiting to letting go. The fire licks the edges of the hull, growing bold as it feeds on dry timber and sacred oil. The heat swells outward, pushing against the faces of those watching from the shore, casting their expressions into harsh relief. Your sister stands near the edge of the fjord, fingers clenched into her tunic, not from fear, from reverence. No one dares break the silence. Children are pulled close to their mother's sides. Warriors rest their hands on hilts not to draw, but to remember. The longship begins to drift, slow and deliberate, tugged by the tide like something alive. Fire trails behind it, reflecting in broken shards across the water, and for a moment the vessel seems to glow with its own light. Bjark doesn't move, of course, but the flames wrap around him like cloaks, red, orange, hints of blue where the oil spits its fury. His sword heats until it shines. His shield blackens at the edges. The mast splinters and cracks, coughing sparks into the wind. And you watch, because this is not a goodbye. This is the first time you truly understand what it means to leave with honor. You hear your own breath louder than usual. Feel your heartbeat tapping against your ribs, each thump echoing with something primal. Your chest tightens, not because you knew him, because you know now that this is what waits, eventually, if you are brave enough, brutal enough, respected enough. The fire roars, reaching higher, bending the air around it. The sound isn't just burning, it's remembering. Your mother steps forward and places a carved bone at the shoreline, marked with runes for wind and protection. She doesn't explain. You don't ask. You just stare, the reflection of flame dancing across your eyes. Somewhere behind you, Toke begins to speak, softly, reciting a stanza from the poems buried deeper than any shield bit. You can't hear all the words, but you catch fragments. Ash to wind, blade to fate, breath to stars. You don't know if it's poetic or warning. Either way, it fits. As the longship drifts farther, the sea claims it more fully, waves licking at its sides, testing the structure. The flames hold. It rides onward, now silhouetted against the distant cliffs. Smoke trails behind like a broken spear thrown across the horizon. You wonder where the soul goes. Not just in stories, but for real. Whether the fire opens some gate in the sky or simply clears space for those still standing. Bjark is gone now. The ship is still burning. But he is already part of the wind. The sacred tree rises from the center of the grove like something older than land itself. Its trunk is wide enough to block out the morning sun, roots sprawling in all directions, tangled deep into rock and memory. The bark is dark, almost black, covered in knots and scratches from generations of fingers, blades, and bones that marked it with reverence. You've seen the tree before, of course, passed it during chores or gatherings, watched it from a distance as warriors pressed bloody palms against it or tied scraps of red cloth to its branches. But today is different. Today, you step forward alone. The air smells of iron and frost. Mist curls from the ground, wrapping itself around your boots as if trying to hold you back. Your heart thumps loudly, but you walk anyway across the stone path, through the hush of waiting elders, past your mother whose gaze meets yours briefly but says nothing. You feel each breath more than you hear it, the cold tightening your chest in a way that sharpens focus. The tree looms closer, and soon it's no longer something you gaze upon, it's something you answer to. The wind is quiet. Even the birds hold still in the branches overhead. There are no drums, no horns, no guiding chants. That only happens for men who return from raids covered in wounds. This is your first oath. You are still small, but you are not a child. Your father stands beside the tree with a wooden bowl in his hands, filled with dark liquid goat blood, thickened with ash, stirred with birch oil. He doesn't smile. He nods once, then dips his fingers into the bowl and smears 2 stripes across your forehead. The blood runs cold but feels hot against your skin. You smell it instantly earthy, bitter. Your mother once told you it carries the memory of the herd, the strength of the beast, and the weight of fire. You believe it now. It sinks beneath your skin like truth. You turn toward the tree. Its surface is rough to the touch, each groove a timeline you haven't lived. You press your hand to it, palm flat, fingers spread. Your hand shakes, not violently, but enough for you to feel it. Enough for your body to understand what this means. Your voice, though, when it rises, does not waver. You speak the words taught to you 2 winters ago. You swear loyalty, not just to your clan, but to the idea of it, to the names carved into the stone circle around the grove, to the bones buried beneath the roots of the tree, to the shields stacked in the longhouse rafters that hold the scent of old war and fire. You promise to stand when called, even when it means pain, even when it means loss. You swear strength, not just of muscle, but of character. You know strength now from mornings spent dragging firewood uphill, from bleeding fingers after stretching hides, from training until your knees screamed and your breath vanished into the snow. You've learned strength is not always the sound of roaring. It is also the silence between blows, the discipline to endure without complaint, the patience to wait when waiting feels impossible. You swear vengeance if needed, not for glory, not for pride, but to protect those who live beneath your roof and those whose names were whispered as the longship burned. You think of Bjark, now ash in the sea. You think of your brother who sailed away and may never return. You think of Toke's stories about raids that ended not with victory, but with reckoning. Vengeance is not joy. It is responsibility. Each word hangs heavy in the air. The tree listens. Your elders watch. When you finish, your father steps forward. He presses a bone blade, into your left palm. It's small, barely the length of your finger, honed from elk bone and worn smooth with time. You know what comes next. You do not hesitate. You drag the blade across the center of your palm, not deep, just enough to break the surface. Enough for the blood to rise. It beads slowly, thick and red, a message your body writes for the tree to read. You press your bleeding palm against the bark. It sticks. The blood sinks into the grooves, joining the hundreds that came before you. The tree does not move, but you feel it accept you, like heat pressing against your chest, like a drumbeat in your bones. You do not understand it fully, but you feel it all the same. The bone blade is taken. The bowl is passed around. Each elder dips their finger and marks your shoulders, your wrists. They do not speak. They do not congratulate, but their silence feels like approval. Toke leans close and whispers just 4 words. The gods heard you. That night in the longhouse, everything feels changed. You eat with warriors instead of beside children. Your bowl is filled first instead of last. Your sister looks at you differently, not with pride, but with expectation. Your mother rests a carved stone on your cot. It holds your rune urus, etched deep, blackened with ash, a mark of growth. You feel the weight of it in your hand, like fire held in bone. You sleep beneath your wolf fur, with the scent of blood still on your forehead. You do not wash it away. You earned it. And the tree remembers. The axe lies beside you, its wooden shaft worn smooth from training, its iron head wrapped in cloth, not to keep it clean, but to prevent its edge from dulling against the hard floor. You don't remember when you started sleeping with it. Perhaps after your cousin didn't return from the raid, or after Toke said that warriors must be familiar with their weapons even in dreams. Or maybe it was just instinct, buried in your bones like your father's stride or your mother's knife hand grip. Either way, it's there, each night, just within reach. You don't touch it unless necessary. But it knows you, and you know it. You're not afraid of death. You were told early that fear doesn't fit into Viking mouths, that a warrior doesn't cry at the thought of the final breath, only at the idea of taking it without leaving a mark. You've seen old men speak of their youth with longing, not for more years, but for one more worthy death. You've seen mothers press feathers into their sons' boots before raids, whispering blessings so the gods would see them clearly, even as blood covered their faces. Death isn't something avoided. It's something sharpened for. But readiness is different than fearlessness. You prepare without drama, without prayer, without weeping into your cloak. You just know that the blade must be oiled, that your boots must be near the door, that your heart must beat steady when voices rise in the longhouse, and the word raid is spoken between gulps of mead and glances toward the horizon. Some nights, you wonder which end you'll meet. If the wind will carry your ship to jagged rocks or enemy spears, if your last breath will be fought for in the ice-filled sea, lungs bursting with salt water and song, or if you'll fall in a field beside a broken shield, throat torn by a blade you never saw coming. You imagine the sound, not the scream, but the silence afterward, the space between the body and the sky. You don't dread it, but you acknowledge it. You must. Your father once said readiness isn't forged in the training yard or battle. It's made quietly, in the way you hold your blade when no one's watching, in the way you choose your words when tempers rise, in the way you sleep with both ears awake. You remember how he didn't flinch when the dog howled during last year's storm, how he lifted his cloak and walked out into the dark like it was nothing. You followed him with your eyes and saw his hand resting on the handle of his axe, loose, confident, ready. You've trained with your stick sword until splinters bled into your palms. You've stood on frozen ground, fingers stiff, waiting for Toke to tell you when to strike. You've bled for practice. You've limped for it. And still you go back. Not because you're ordered, because you know the only fight worse than death is the one you enter unprepared. Even the young ones sense it. They mimic warriors, stomp through mud, shout old names. But the truth settles differently when you hear of real death. Not the stories, the silence left behind. The plate never touched again. The axe hung too high on the wall for use. The seat by the fire unfilled. You've seen those things. You've learned. You carve runes now, small ones, into the wooden panel near your cot. Protection, wisdom, watchfulness. You don't ask for safety. Just the chance to face what comes with your eyes open and your hands steady. Some nights your dreams twist. Waves taller than mountains, beasts rising from beneath, swords clashing in mist. You wake breathless, eyes wide, reaching instinctively for the axe. The touch calms you. The blade doesn't speak, but it reminds. You see your father watching the skies more often. He reads them without speaking. The color of cloud edges, the direction of raven flight, the way the wind moves over the field. You ask once what he sees. He says, "The world blinking." You nod, even if you don't understand. Not yet. Your sister sharpens blades now, quietly. She hums while doing it, a low tune passed down by grandmothers who no longer walk. You watch her hands move with certainty, the way she slides the whetstone against steel with rhythm. You think she's preparing too, not for battle perhaps, but for loss, for hard choices, for winter that bites deeper than hunger. Corey the thrall found a dead fox behind the barn last moonrise. He cut it open with his bare hands and spoke no words, just buried it beneath stone. You saw his face then, unreadable. You wondered if he too slept beside some weapon no one asked about. Preparation isn't loud. You've learned that. It settles into the way you listen to footsteps, the way you count how many arrows hang above the door, the way you notice who finishes meals without savoring. And readiness isn't perfect. You know that. You still flinch sometimes. You still shiver before sparring. You still breathe faster when someone jokes about blood too easily. But you keep going, because that's what readiness truly is, returning even when every bone says wait. Toke told you last week that true warriors don't chase death. They just don't run from it. You think about that while pulling hay from the loft. You think about it while mending the fence, while washing your hands in snowmelt, while pressing your thumb into the hilt of your blade before sleep. One morning, a raven circles overhead and cries once. The elders pause. You do too, not because of superstition, but because signs matter, because the wind feels heavier, because your gut says something is shifting. Your father sets down his drink without finishing it. Your mother pulls out the old chest. No one speaks. You wrap your axe in cloth again. You tie it tighter. You place it beside your cot. That night, you sleep facing the door. You are ready. After 15 chapters of frost, fire, blood, and bone, we've walked the path from boyhood to legend. Growing up Viking wasn't just about surviving icy mornings or digging trenches with bruised hands. It meant learning silence at the breakfast table, swinging blades before reading runes, and pledging oaths with trembling fingers beneath sacred trees. It meant watching longships burn and hiding fear behind steel. And above all, it meant knowing that death might come by sea or battle, and meeting it with eyes wide and a weapon ready. If this journey spoke to you, if it lingered in the back of your throat like a story you almost remember, then this channel is for you. More Viking epics, Norse mythology, and immersive historical storytelling are waiting just beyond the horizon. So sharpen your blade, fasten your cloak, and hit subscribe. Leave a like if Bjark's ship burned into your memory, and comment below with which chapter hit you hardest. Was it the silence at breakfast, or the blood oath beneath the tree? Thanks for sailing with us through the cold. The saga isn't over. The gods are watching, and they never blink.